Hello, everyone. My name is John Edwards. With me, as always, is Zeke Baker, and together we make the Dad's Drinking Bourbon. We are often imitated, never duplicated, wherever you are, whatever time it is. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Say hello to the folks, Zeke.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble. The fans have been relentless asking us to do a turkey episode, so it's about time that we actually did one for them, right?
There are definitely worse things to drink in this world, planet, hemisphere, whatever you want to look at.
And we will talk about this in a little bit, but I feel like everybody who's had a bad drinking experience with bourbon, kind of coming into the game, or when they were earlier in life, in college, before college, not saying we advocate underage drinking, but just saying what some people decide to do. Everybody has had a bad night where they have drank too much turkey and lived to regret it. Not to call him out every episode, but our friend Ryan Lay always says, I don't really like turkey too much. I had a bad experience drinking it.
I never had a bad experience drinking it. It was more so of a football coach that had a rough nights with it. And, he'd just chew your ass at 8:30 in the gym in the morning. And when he took out his teeth and yelled at you and all you smelled was turkey, it just went downhill.
Well, let's be honest. Nobody's ever had a bad experience drinking it. The bad experience happens later on after drinking it.
I think SoCo got more of my friends and or possibly myself. Possibly.
I tried to stay away from SoCo as much as I could.
It happens.
And all I have to say, and before we get into this episode, I just have to say, having a 2-year-old gives me a perpetual headache that I can never get rid of. It took us 2 hours to get into the groove tonight because I just needed to sit on the chair in your living room in silence.
And lose at golf.
And lose at Golf Clash.
I don't know what this game is he plays is called, but I'm pretty sure his handle must be I like to lose.
I didn't lose. I lost a little bit. I mean, I
saw your phone. It said draw or lose.
But draw means you go to a shootout. And then somebody wins. There is a winner. I did win quite a bit while you were doing stuff around the house.
Was the person handicapped?
No.
Handicapable.
And hate mail can be addressed to Zeke Baker. Anything good happened to you over the week? I know you did go on vacation to Pigeon Forge, right? You went to Dollywood.
We went to Pigeon Forge / Gatlinburg / Dollywood. The least slash would probably be Gatlinburg, although I will give the place credit. They have an aquarium that's actually pretty impressive.
Did you go see our friends at Sugarlands?
I did not, but you just have to get past all the people for the most part. But the aquarium's nice, no lie. Pigeon Forge was fun. We did Dollywood for one day with the kid. At his age, there's not a ton of rides or a market for a 2.5-year-old. There's a few things here and there and half stuff they're scared of. So, it is what it is. We had a great time. He swam a lot in the pool. Swam by himself, quote unquote. The first time it was pretty good fun. But the final night there, I finally saw the lightness at the end of it. So I'm sitting out there, and most nights I drink out on the deck. Have my computer, whatever. Kid and woman are asleep in the room, so I'm just sitting out there trying to get some peace and quality time. Well, I've had bad reflux. I'm stuck with a rye to drink. High proof rye. That and reflux don't necessarily go too well. So I say, I'm going to go against my own will. Go buy, some diet soda to mix, which, by the way, those new Coke machines, you can blend anything you want. This was like a Diet Sprite Zero with strawberry, peach, and like a touch of apple.
And you decided to put that with... I'm trying to figure out, where you're getting with this story.
Well, I didn't think a dark soda would go good with rye, so I went with the Sprite Zero with, the rye-type flavors. Peach, apple, whatever the other thing I said was. I don't know.
Cherry?
Maybe, yep.
And?
I was pretty inundated.
You were inundated or inebriated?
Inundated. Imagine me sober and you're sitting there going, which one of these do you want to blend? And there's 13 choices and you think they all sound good.
Regular Sprite sounds the best out of all of that. So continue.
So regardless, I'm sitting out there and I'm, managing to get this down as I can. Folks that listen may be aware or see things. I do raffle and gamble from time to time. I see a Four Roses that I think is a pretty good idea. One spot's taken. I decided to take the other 9. As this raffle is rolling out and I realize I lost 10% to 90%, I also see Pepe Le Pew come walking across the deck.
Tell me you got sprayed by a skunk.
No, I didn't. Thank the good Lord. That might be the only salvation here. I mean, literally, I look down and here this thing comes. And the way I'm sitting in the chair and the table, for lack of better words, I'd call it side saddle. So I can't jump the opposite direction over the table. All I can really do is hope to jump from my seat over the side of the table to another seat and hope this thing runs under me and also doesn't spray me. No more than 3 feet away at all times. I even loudly yell and like cuss. I mean,
So you tried cussing out a skunk?
There's like 2 seconds of thought process of how do I scare it away? How do I not get sprayed? Why me, God? What's going wrong in my life now? Jesus, this is just not right.
So what's the moral? So I don't understand. What do you do? Throw the peach rye concoction at the skunk and he liked it?
So it ran off and went to the next balcony and I guess the next and the next. And I thought to myself about this, why did this happen? I don't have a ton of bad luck, not normally. I do pretty good for most things. And then it dawned on me like a day and a half later, the other night, it's because I mixed it with soda.
And not just any soda. No, that's
exactly.
Like,
you see where I'm going here.
You're burying the lead. You mixed it with peach, cherry, whatever.
Apple.
I
mean, it wasn't ice. Cube or 2, wasn't a splash of water. It was straight good quality booze mixed with soda. And I think that's where I went wrong.
Maybe just start with a regular Sprite or a ginger ale. Ginger ale is always good. Ginger beer is good. You could have made yourself a little mule. They have old-fashioned kits to go now. You could have made a little old-fashioned out of it.
Well, when you're on your final night staying in a Dollywood hotel, there's not many options there, bud.
To make a good thing come out of this story, like this is my I found $20 part of this story. Whenever you tell a bad story, by the way, just say you found money and then your story is better. But if you are a parent and you're not signed up for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, it is a great thing for everybody in the state of Tennessee that Dolly Parton will buy your kid books. Every month a book comes in the mail from Dolly Parton, and I'm very appreciative of that. So all you parents out there, Imagination Library is great. Zeke, I have no words. I can't even.
Well, so even worse, and again, not smart enough, I didn't pay attention to your A&P classes, but this skunk, it was white, bordered, black in the middle. Not your normal Pepe Le Pew.
All I have to say is we are all dumber for having heard that. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's fine. You say that now. I hope a skunk rolls up on you one day, buds. We'll see you play leapfrog over it.
I'm very I'm like a cat.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea how agile I am. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about whiskey because, Zeke, I'm good at giving you credit where credit is due. And you did happen to land a sample of 11-year Old Fitzgerald bottled and bond. Now, if you are our friends from Spirit Sense and you're listening, we are going to do something fun. I know they are going to come and go check out our friends at Spirit Sense. They take old bottles, they cut them off, they fill it up with candle wax, and they put a wick in there, and you get yourself a scented bourbon or spirit candle. It's not just bourbon. They have all sorts of spirits. They are on Spirit Sense on Instagram and spiritsense.com. Go ahead and check them out. But they're going to come and they're going to spend a night with us and hang out and drink some whiskey here in July. And they're going to bring Old Fitz bottled and bond. So we'll have to blind it against something. Now, we did have it. It's 75% corn, 20% wheat, 5% malted barley. It's 100 proof, 50% ABV, 11 years old, from Heaven Hill, coming in anywhere from $110 to $130. Zeke, what did you get on this? We've been sipping it as we've been talking and writing some notes down.
Nose-wise, it was good, honestly. It reminded me of fresh toasted raisin bread with butter. Straight out, pops up, throw butter on there, go to town. It did have a noticeable and solid amount of alcohol for 100 proof. And the last thing I wrote on nose was kind of reminded me of Teddy Grahams. I don't know. I haven't had those in a while. Probably should refresh myself. The kid's not into them yet, but that came back.
I love Teddy Grahams.
Moving forward, palate-wise, it unfortunately kind of did a bit of a U-turn. It seemed to be, honestly, decently to heavily corn on the front, and then just had a lot of hits of both bitter and aged oak. I think that sounds funny, but to me it was both there, both just the bitterness of an oak, plus just you got cooked. I don't know. It is what it is. Low viscosity, not much chewiness. Some sweetness did reveal itself upon that, but also some burn kicked in that I wasn't necessarily a fan of. Finish-wise, it kind of reverted back to how it started on the palate of very simply just a charred, toasted, burnt corn lingerish for a wheated mash bill. There was not the sweet that they tout for those things.
So for me, for the Old Fitz bottled in bond, the nose, it was like a trick nose. It was very refreshing. Sweetness of wheat. It was almost like not a French toast, but a toast with fruit and a buttery toasted piece of bread with fruit. I felt like it was going to be some smooth sipping after having that nose. It wasn't astringent. There wasn't a lot of spice on the nose. It seemed like it was going to be a very smooth pour. Once I had the taste, it was so much spicier than I expected on the first sip. Black pepper bomb is what I wrote. It's oakier to me than the 4-year, but I can't get past the pepper. It was just lots and lots and lots of spice and pepper. The finish, I said, was spice and pepper lingers. It's a smack your lips, dry oak, peppery, spicy finish. That's where I ended up there.
Yeah, no. I think where I said bitter and aged oak, you had pepper and also oak. So, again, just a really lack of complexity. Nose is, it's good. I mean, I could smell it most days.
I didn't hate it, though, right? Like, here's the thing, is I didn't hate it. I hate it for $110 to $130. If it was cheaper, it's not like it's a whiskey that I said I really don't like this. I mean, I have to be in the mood for something that's dry and peppery and spicy.
What mood is that?
It's not harsh in the way that like a Texas whiskey would be harsh, but sometimes you want something that's going to put hair in your chest.
So you have nights where you really want dry, peppery, and spicy.
I get all sorts of moods. I have a 2-year-old. It happens.
I mean, I can take a couple of your, blends and put some Bengay or something around the lip of it and not tell you which ones have which.
That would be a fun blind. It's like Russian roulette. You and I should do that sometime. We should line up a bunch of blinds and then say we're going to put like Bengay on one of them.
I did it to a kid at work once.
Did you?
Like, man, something's wrong with my allergies. My nose is just running. And he starts rubbing it and like rubs his eyes, and I start to feel bad, but I just still don't tell him because it's still pretty damn funny. It ended badly.
This one tastes like menthol. I can tell you the worst thing in the world is when I was playing football and when you were playing practical jokes on other people and they would put all icy hot in your jockstrap. Not saying it happened to me. It did not happen to me, but I watched it happen to a few people and it was not fun.
It's all in a good time.
So neither of us are going to go ahead and get this for $110 to $130, but where do you see it more? What range would you pay for it?
I think I would continue on your comment of liking some aspects of it at a lower possible price. And by that, I think I mean like $55, maybe $60. You'd really like to have that decanter, just knowing you. So I see it at that price point. It's buyable. For me, I would treat it like Al 1 and It's a pass.
The funny thing is, you're going to laugh, when it comes to a decanter, I don't like the shape of the decanter of this one. I prefer decanter. I really like simple decanters, classy southern style decanters. It almost has too much decoration for me on it. I really like, my favorite decanter is the square one that has just an E on it. And then, my dad got me one of the prestige decanters that is a diamond shaped. I don't like ornate decanters.
I'm with you.
It's funny you said going up to 60. I see this as a 30 to 50 is where I would kind of put it. I'd say save me the decanter. I don't need the decanter. Put it in a regular bottle and let me pay 30 to 50.
Yeah, the juice is by no means anything to get excited to write home about. Plenty of other folks have probably already said, and we're more or less reiterating the same. The sample did come across today, so I told John, hey, well, let's go ahead and touch on it. We're not the first to say this by any means, probably, but we'll give our fair and honest opinion. And by chance, if it was different, we would want to state that. Unfortunately, it just kind of seemed to still fall between the lines of what everyone else had said.
Before we go into the blind here, you were actually, and I have to let you go with this because you actually did some homework. So, blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. What's the best thing that you found this week that you want to talk about here real quick?
Oh, this is tough. Part of me says the Barton collapse, but I think that's been so touched on, so I'm just going to skip it and say, look, the Rick House had brandy in it. Move on, people. Thanks.
Well, and I'll just add to that, really glad nobody was hurt.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the most important thing of it all. Talked to some people that work over at Barton. Nobody was in the warehouse that day. Nobody was scheduled to be in that warehouse that day. So, considering what could have happened, that's the main thing. Just really happy everybody's okay. Anyways, what's the one thing you want to touch on?
So I think the best epiphany moment I had, which although this may not have appeared on secondary, was as we're at all these theme parks, people are buying water left and right crazy. We are, for us and the kid, etc. I think back to doing a pick. They serve you the limestone water to taste in between, add to your samples, whatnot. Why is limestone water not bigger in the bottled water market, I guess. There we go.
Well, it is on Amazon. There's that old limestone water.
It truly is really good water.
Have you gone full tater?
No, I'm just saying, all right, Dasani, Purina, Aqua, blah, whatever these things are called. You only have to be 30% distilled water, and then you can mix tap in with it to begin with. To me, that's the biggest tater market, is bottled water. There's a fountain everywhere. I will not pay for bottled water for myself, at least. I get stuck.
But you would pay for limestone water.
It was pretty damn good. I do get stuck paying for bottled water for other people in my life, but for Zeke, no.
But I don't think they have peach cherry lemonade.
That was a one-time mixer. One time. I'm just saying the limestone water, especially just like cold, it has amazing flavor.
I will say this. I've had it. I think it does have some really good flavor to it. I think it's setting us up for something that's interesting because we don't add water too much. But I think we should do a blind where we have the same spirit. We add a drop of the limestone water and we add a couple drops of tap water and we see which one we think tastes better.
I'm always game.
Yeah, might just be something fun to throw in there somewhere. But I don't know. I think if people knew that there was a considerable difference to the taste that they're going to get from doing it, I could see more people doing it. You and I just get very lazy, and it's out of lazy and it's out of our preference, but we end up drinking a lot of stuff neat.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to trying it with a few drops here and there. I've just yet to find it strike my fancy any more so than I would have without. Although it wasn't the best thing I saw on secondary per se. That was my random thought. The best thing I've seen on secondary was a group literally ban any sale of Basil Hayden rye as being too tater.
I don't know if I would use the word too tater. I fully support this message of banning the overpriced, overhyped 80 proof whiskey. I would not call Tater. I would say it is a entry into bourbon. It's a gateway drug.
But it's a rye.
Well, or bourbon, rye, whiskey, whatever. I mean, they do have, their main seller is the bourbon. Are we talking about that two-tone rye or whatever it is?
I don't know what it's called. They got good marketing.
Yeah, they have very good. It's like two shoes, two-tone.
Whiskey, bourbon, rye drinkers.
Whiskey? All right, let's actually drink some whiskey. We're going to take a break here. All of you have been getting on us to visit Wild Turkey more, and we decided, you know what? There's no reason why we haven't. It just hasn't come up lately. So let's take a second. Our friend Bryant sent us some Russell's Reserve, the Motor Supply pick. You can find them at Motor Supply on Instagram. He sent us the Motor Supply pick. Zeke and I's friend Tom sent us a pick of Russell Reserve from one of his private groups. We ended up getting our hands on a Kentucky Spirit that was picked by 404 Kitchen here in Nashville. And then we put it up against regular old Wild Turkey Rare Breed. So Zeke, do what you do. Fast forward that tape. We'll come back. I will give everybody the tail of the tape. We're going to switch around kind of how we do these blinds because a lot of people have been confused by just doing numbers. So we're going to go through all the reveal stuff when we first get back. And then we will just talk about everything by the name so that you can follow our tasting notes more clearly, because we do listen to you. We put something out on the Instagrams. We said, how do we make us better? The number one thing you guys said is that the blinds are confusing as hell. So we're going to take your feedback. We're going to get better from it. Thank you. Keep giving us feedback. It's the one thing that makes us better. Zeke, do what you do.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
You like that?
One was an imitated turkey sound. One was cheeks moving.
And we're back. In the break, we did have Russell's Reserve. It was a Flight Club pick. 110 proof, 55% ABV. It is the standard mash of Wild Turkey. This is going to be the same for all of them, folks. It's 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. Both Russell Reserve picks, the Motor Supply and the Flight Club, are both 110 proof, 55% ABV, and 10 years old. They range anywhere from $45 to $60, depending on if it's a store pick and where the store is. The Motor Supply is a restaurant pick. You actually can't get it in a store. And then also the same thing with the 404 Kitchen. That's a restaurant pick that you can't get in a store. So we were lucky enough to get our hands on some samples of those. So thank you, everybody who helped us out. The Rare Breed is 116.8 proof, 58.4% ABV, ranges from 6 to 8 years. It is $40 to $50. Last but not least is Kentucky Spirit. It's 101 proof, 50.5% ABV. Couldn't really find some aged stuff on this one, but it ends up being anywhere from $50 to $65 in the stores.
Yep, I mean, very similar price points for all these bottles as well, should you see them in the store. Some are single barrel picks, but again, as far as a bland price statement, basically no variance here.
I should say, for all of you that are listening, it is very easy this week. I got all my blinds right. Zeke got all of his wrong. I don't really fault Zeke for that because everything is the same. I will tell you that some of mine were just guesses. I could tell. We'll talk about this when we get into the tasting. The one that I could tell right off the bat was Rare Breed. That's my favorite turkey, going into this. I really do love that Rare Breed. It's kind of my go-to regular turkey. Not talking about a store pick, but if you're asking me what's my favorite regular wild turkey, it's going to be Rare Breed. Maybe that's because it's the cast strength, but I just got lucky with a couple of them. I think when you get to the store picks, it was kind of a coin flip in the Russells for me. But Zeke did kind of get some different notes than I did on these, and we didn't talk about them in depth. but let's talk about them after we rank what they were. So the one that I liked the best, and I'm going to be 100% honest, I'm not just saying this because somebody sent it to us, I loved that Motor Supply the best. Second one I had in there was my go-to rare breed. Third one was the 404 Kentucky Spirit. And the fourth one was the Russell Reserve Flight Club. I will say that this was very, very tough to rank. When I said that Flight Club was fourth, that's not something that I said this is a bad Russell Reserve pick. All of these were very, very good. I'll tell you right now, I'd go buy a bottle of every single one of these if I could. What about you, Zeke?
For number one, actually I ended up with Rare Breed. Number two was the Motor City.
Motor Supply.
Motor City, Motor Supply. Motor something, right?
Rrr.
Just no motorboat, and it's just me and you, bud. Third, I had Flight Club, and fourth was the Kentucky Spirit. I almost laughably think I was probably at more of a disposition here than John. Simply that two of these four I've had more than once on my own. I laugh because I feel like anything you've drank multiple times independently, when you have it in a blind, you pick up on something that you think reminds you of the most distinguished characteristic of that pour, so you immediately assign it as, oh, this is that. And it, even though it's blind, you still just really block out some aspects to it as far as open thinking goes. But that's just my random thought here for blind tastings.
Our rankings are kind of interesting because the one I put number one, you put as number two. The one I put as number two, you put as number one. And the one I put as number three, you put as number four. And the one I put as number four, you put as number three.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
We had the same top half and bottom half. We just inverted both of those.
Yeah, crisscross. They'll
Jump.
make you jump.
I think they're dead now. We're that old. Jesus.
The wiggity whack.
It's Mac before Whack, I think.
Is it wiggity whack?
Mac.
Whack.
Mac, then Whack.
Oh.
Quack.
Duck.
Gobble, gobble.
Let's talk about Rare Breed first, because that was your number one. That was one that I always... That is my go-to, like I said. That's my favorite wild turkey, straight wild turkey product. If you were going to say it's not a store pick, you're in the store, go buy something that's wild turkey, I would immediately go to Rare Breed. And that 116.8 proof, I just love. But you go ahead and give me your tasting notes on it, and I'll give you mine.
Nose-wise, I thought it was just really sweet. Somewhere between cotton candy and sweet tart. Sugary sweet. I mean, I even underlined sweet is just like, man, it was just so distinct. Palate wise, again, sweet. There were some corn notes. It was not a thick pour. It worked well, chewed decently, and was just really big on the front. As far as finish wise, it did leave some residual that was not unpleasant, more of a continuation, nothing different. To me, just so big and such a pop of sweet up front. It was hard to get anything else because it just punched you so hard right in the nose.
For me on this one, my nose, I said, so fresh and so clean, and slight vanilla there. But I could definitely tell it was going to be something that was smooth. It wasn't overpowering with the spice. It wasn't something that was unpleasing or astringent. It was just nice, full of flavor. Kind of, it really did smell fresh and clean, not like but more like fresh and clean of a meadow or a field. It wasn't like laundry, fresh and clean. What?
Is it a Donnie commercial?
I really
Gain?
I really want to hang. What's the one that has the bear?
That's Donnie, isn't it?
No, isn't it Snuggle? I want to hang.
We're talking about fabric softener versus detergent. You're in the detergent realm right now, John. That's Gain or Tide.
The
Strawberry fields forever.
It's about time I got you singing. The taste on this one, it was smooth on the front, but spice that builds nicely. It tingles, but not too heavy. You can still feel the smooth aspects of this one. It wasn't so spicy that I couldn't taste the vanilla or caramel or those nice aspects that coat your throat. The finish for me was a lingering dry oak, though, and it wasn't a dry that made me smack my lips, but it was that darker, oakier, woodier feel for me on the finish. Anyways, let's move on to the Motor Supply. I had this ranked number 1. You had this ranked as number 2. Zeke, let's get into the Motor Supply. What do you think about this? What are your tasting notes, nose, taste, finish?
Nose-wise, it was a little tricky at first. To begin with, it seemed somewhat masked in between what I assumed was alcohol vapor, just preventing anything noticeable really coming off. With time, I picked up cherries and then what I really thought was vanilla custard. Palate-wise, dark cherry over some tannins. It really kind of moved into a darker fruit. Blueberries, what I put down, somewhere in that, again, just darker colored fruit line. Had some warmth. Really tasted like a fresh bread with jam on the top of it. Again, that darker fruit kind of sense. Finish, it did have a linger of some heat along with the flavor, but it wasn't overwhelming. Again, the alcohol subtleties that you can see there, my guess was rare breed on it just because it was the highest proof.
So I have a very funny nose on this one. For the Motor Supply Russell Reserve pick, the nose, I got breakfast. And I got that on a couple of the other ones as well, but it just smelled like somebody was cooking breakfast to me. I also wrote that it made me hungry for donuts. So it almost had like a sweet donut-y aspect to it in the nose that was just super sweet but breakfasty. Like think eggs, bacon, sausage on the griddle, and you're cooking that up. The taste for me was just the right amount of spice. It builds nicely. I got spice, pepper that moved into it. What you were saying, there's almost a dark fruit, tobacco, oak, chocolate portion of this for me on the taste. And then the finish, it was a dry spice linger without the heat. I got almost a little bit of slight dill on the finish as well. I mean, you put all those things together, you know I'm going to like this one. And what the reason why I had this ranked number 1 was the complexity. Mm-hmm. There were so many different aspects of it from start to finish that I know that if I had more pours of this, I would get different things at different times. And that's just, I really get interested in those ones that are going to make you think and that you're not going to have the same experience every time. And I really just appreciate those.
Well, even laughably, I mean, granted we still have 2 more to go, but I think we could blind each other on these 4 separate times just simply because there's 4 pours here. And each time there would be a different ranking. Granted, they do all come from the same mash, but again, you have other factors such as the wood, which rick and where it sits. So yeah, it's a fun aspect for people to consider because sometimes people say it's the yeast, sometimes they say it's the grain. Again, the wood that's used and where it sits also plays a factor. But with turkey, I mean, it's all one line, seemingly.
There's one bourbon, one rye.
Other than the wood they dump it in and where they decide to let it rest and for how long they let it rest. But to see the variances here, I mean, it's fun and none are off-putting or bad by any means.
Well, and it's fun. I don't want to keep harping on the same point that we talk about all the time. But you think about different whiskeys coming from different parts of the country. Our friend Troy always, him and I have a running joke, and he gives me hell and I give him hell. Troy up in Wisconsin, where, I just kind of mentioned that once you get north like that, the whiskey's going to age a little differently. Just that's why Scotch takes so much longer than a bourbon. You're not always going to have those hot days where, the whiskey is working in and out of the wood as the temperature goes up and comes back down and goes up and comes back down. And it's funny because every time Wisconsin has a day over 90 degrees, Troy is reaching out to me and making sure I know it. So thank you, Troy. Keep doing that. We love you for a whole bunch of stuff you do. Go find him at the Speakeasy Wisconsin on Instagram. But I think there's so many different factors. I mean, where I was going with that is, if you think different parts of the country are going to have different taste profiles based off of the climate, different rick houses have different taste profiles because of the climate. And it could change from year to year. One year, warehouse A could be have a certain taste profile, and then the next year, warehouse B has it. It's all where the sun's hitting it, what the weather's like, how hot was it in the rick, how hot was it outside. There's so many things that could go into that. It's kind of crazy. Let's talk about these last. I mean, we could talk about that for a whole hour, Zeke. That would be an episode. But going into the Kentucky Spirit, I'll talk about this one for a second. My nose for the Kentucky Spirit, and this was a restaurant pick at the 404 Kitchen. The nose, if I were to name this pick, I would have named it Spearmint Breakfast. I almost got a spearmint gum portion on the nose, but I also got that, slight breakfast, the slight donut like I got on the Rare Breed. The taste was smooth and minty. It was the least spicy, but the spice builds. So it did have some spice, but it was later on after I chewed on it for a minute. The finish, I said, was dry oak, but not smack your lips.
Interesting. I've at least had this a few times in the past 24 hours. I won't disclose times, but during all those, I really thought it just had an extreme blueberry component to the nose. For the reason that just kept jumping at me, and the nose honestly was just really good. Palate wise, I kept thinking it wasn't bad, but it just did not match how good the nose was. I don't know if it needed airtime, etc. But whatever reason, regardless, I did rank this as my fourth here. And on this, I thought the nose really seemed to have some mix of vanilla plus like a waffle cone kind of thing going on. Also some white fruits, apple or pears somewhere in there. Palate wise, it did come off thin and somewhat alcoholic at first. Then had a really good sweetness that was just really sharp, but also behind that an oak that just seemed to be noticeable.
Nice. Last but not least, let's talk about the Flight Club pick. For me, this is the first one I had. In full disclosure, this was the first one I tasted. It is a Russell Reserve pick from Flight Club, which is a private barrel selection group. The nose, I said it was grilling / cooking breakfast, eggs, bacon, and sausage in the morning with breakfast spice. I mean, I could sum it up to breakfast spices, right? If you close your eyes and take a sip of that, you're sitting there watching, mom or dad cook on the stove, and you're waiting to get that food, and you know it's going to taste so good. And it tastes like eggs and bacon and sausage in the house. Just was thinking that was going to be really, really, really good. The taste, there was lots of spice and oak. It was peppery, and that oak gives way to tobacco for me. So it was a dark component to the pick, in the sense that it doesn't always match the nose. I think that it's going to be super smooth off of that nose, and you have it and you realize it's a little more dark, a little more oak, a little more dark chocolate. Just interesting that stuff is in there, right?
No, I'm with you. And like I said, I've had this definitely more than a handful of times. That bottle almost drained. I literally saved it just simply thinking, one day John and I might need this for something. Nose-wise, it to me was just like warm syrup. Very rich sugars, and I got somewhere in the mix of a blueberry waffle and French toast. The blueberry note obviously pops up more than once here.
Lego my ego.
I mean, again, no matter what expression of turkey you get, you're going to get some great fruit notes out of this. Don't doubt that at all. Palate wise, it was alcohol-y but not hot. Seemed a little bit thin. Had just some amazing jolts of flavor. and then a light berry fruit. To me, the jolts of flavor just really hit and popped almost like lightning. Just didn't hang around long enough to think, man, like this thing just is not going to stop impressing me. Finish wise, had a very slight hug, a little bit of fruit, and a decent singe. And thinking back to when I've had this before, the reference I made when talking to Tom and the folks that picked it reminded me of cotton candy. Just a super sugary, sweet burst on the front, but just like when cotton candy hits the tongue, as soon as that liquid gets to it, it breaks down and almost dissipates. Not a knock. It's just big front end, back end not as much.
All I have to say after listening to that is, Tom, I do like picks as well. We are friends, so happy to share whatever I have and help a brother out. But Zeke, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of funny that those Russell Reserve picks are so good. And another thing to mention is all of them are non-chill filtered. So you're not going to break the bank. You're going to have a very good non-chill filtered store pick. The Wild Turkey Kentucky Spirit, I don't know if it is non-chill filtered. I could have looked that up. But I never think you can go wrong with a rare breed or a good Russell Reserve store pick. I am fine with either one of them.
I'm just going to be even broader and say the entire line.
Oh, I mean, everything was good.
Even the Kentucky Spirit at 101, higher proof things aren't everyone's thing, for lack of a better word. But as much as folks talk about, a few dabs of water changing the flavor profile, etc., even though this is a difference in 116 to 110 to 101, at least from what I can infer, both John and I really picked up a ton of flavor, nose, palate, finish on all of these. So
I concur.
Yes, it makes a difference, but by no means are these overly diluted to where you're really missing out on a ton, I would say.
Totally agree. I would buy all four of these. Easy. Very, very easy. Very easy blind, but at least we're talking about some Wild Turkey for all y'all. Speaking of which, let us know what you want to hear. Reach out to us. We are on Instagram at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. We're on Facebook at Dad's Drinking Bourbon. On Twitter at Bourbon Dads. We love to hear from you. We love to talk to you. Also, go ahead and find our podcast on your favorite podcast provider. This could be Google, Apple, Stitcher, Podknife, Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever. Go ahead and find us. Leave a 5-star review. Tell us why you like us. It's really important. More important than you could ever know. Zeke, anything you want to say to the folks before we leave?
Well, since we're talking about blinds and turkeys, and you made that amazing quote-unquote noise earlier, if anyone is a turkey hunter and would like to have John help them in their blind, and they think that him making that noise would help them in the blind, if you think that's going to help you track down or shoot a turkey, let us know. I think we can find a contest for that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good week. We'll talk to you soon.
Night. Ciao.